Hi, I'm Jen. Job postings are rarely just job postings. On Roast the Post, we unpack the story behind the bullet points. And in this episode, there's more being said than the posting probably intended. So, without further ado, let's roast. Okay, so Paul, have I got a post for us to roast today?
I'm so excited, but before we do that, we should probably congratulate all of the residents of British Columbia on never having to change their clocks again after Saturday. Y'all are sticking on daylight time. I'm so jealous.
Breaking news, I didn't know. I'm in BC and I didn't know this until you told me, and I'm very excited. I'm not the most outdoorsy person for someone who lives on the West Coast. However, I do like it when it's still light outside at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm all for it. Very excited. You
Mhm,
heard it here
mhm,
first.
mhm. Yeah, we're recording on Monday, March 2nd, so you'll hear it after it's already a thing, folks. But we're talking about it now.
Exciting, exciting times. Okay, it's my week to present a job posting to you, Paul. You have not seen this unless you've been snooping.
Nope,
But hopefully this is a brand new, never before seen job posting.
I do not snoop through your stuff. I saw your little note that you left on the file in Google Drive there that if I looked at it, I would die. I take that seriously. I don't like dying.
I take murdering very seriously too, so I'm glad that you listened. Okay, so we've got a very interesting job posting, and I kind of went on a mission to try to find something unique. My brain always goes to administrative type roles, obviously,
Hmm.
like human resources type. And it's really hard for me to veer away from that. But I was like, what is something that is really like specific? And I started to think about people who work for private family offices,
Mhm.
because there are people out there who have a lot of money and they can hire staff, they can hire people to do anything they want. And that's pretty cool. That's really fascinating to me. And so I started thinking about private family offices and what kind of jobs there were. And lo and behold, I found one for dog nanny and household coordinator.
No, you didn't.
I did. I'm so
Oh, that's
excited.
awesome.
So, are you ready to roast this post?
Absolutely. Is
Okay,
that a real
let's.
job?
Oh, it is. And I'm applying for it as soon as we're done with this. Uh, if this whole podcasting thing doesn't work out, then I'm going to be a dog nanny. Uh, Job title: dog nanny and household coordinator. Reports to unknown. Company size unknown. Industry: private family office. What do they do? We don't know. It's a private family office. The head office location, I put Collingwood, Ontario, because that's also the job location, Collingwood,
Hmm.
Ontario. Geographical operating area, don't know. Job type, I put flexible, and I'm going to dig into that a little bit more as I read through the posting. So, really excited for this one. Let's get into it. The working schedule is entirely aligned with the owner's work and travel commitments. The role typically averages 5 days per week and includes overnights with occasional weekends as required. I'm going to stop there, actually. I'm just going to stop there. Normally, I'd read a little bit more, but what are your thoughts on that?
A little weird. I mean, I get I get kind of the nature of the work is going to necessitate that because being a dog nanny is it's not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5. Like if part of your principal job is to take care of Fufu while the owner is away on a business trip, like yeah, you got to be around when the owner is away because Fufu's going to go hungry otherwise. So I kind of get that, but that does the whole blending of a private family domicile with an employee, uh, it throws up some red flags. Like there's stuff you got to watch out for there, especially if there's gender dynamics in play. Like we've all seen the friggin' movies and TV shows and stuff where, some young personal assistant is put into a not so great position by someone with wealth and power. So if this is kind of like that, it could potentially be pretty bad. Maybe we'll learn more though. Carry on.
Yeah, and you're right. Like I just finished reading a book, The Housemaid. It's also a movie, a newer movie, and not only that, like safety reasons, absolutely, but like affairs. That's such a classic tale as old as time. Like I don't even know. It's I don't know why this is a thing. I also listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and there's one that's currently in the news right now about the nanny and the husband having an affair, and then they plan the murder of the wife, and it's just wild. So yeah, lines will be blurred in any of these types of roles where the employee is like living with or staying overnight at the family home. Like it's inevitable. I would
Yep.
hope that there are a lot of guardrails in place and expect that there are none. So that's my thought on it. About the role.
And that's the thing, right? Like if you think about these live-in roles, au pairs, very, very common.
Yeah.
US, Canada, Europe, super, super common to have an au pair. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. Serving staff in a house, like in a state or a mansion or whatever, they live on premises. There's more than one of them, so I think that helps. I think it's just like a matter of how many people, what are the barriers, the lines, the guardrails. Yeah, let's learn about the role because I'm kind of curious about this now.
So about the role, we are seeking a mature, responsible, outdoors-oriented, and dog-loving individual to provide dedicated care for two well-behaved dogs, while also supporting light household duties to maintain a clean, organized, and well-run home. This role is ideal for someone who genuinely enjoys spending time with dogs, hiking, and being in nature, and who values a calm, tidy, and organized home environment. Please note, this is not a fixed hours role. The successful candidate will be dependable, adaptable, and comfortable aligning their work schedule with the owner's needs, including travel periods, while ensuring both the dogs and home are consistently well cared for. I'm going to stop there. This is just so listeners know, and anyone watching, this isn't very long, but there's a lot to unpack. So we're going to take maybe more frequent pauses than we normally would. And as per usual, you can find a link to the actual job posting in the show notes, so you can read along with us. So
Yep.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll put that up on the episode page for sure.
Yeah.
What are my thoughts about this? Well, I feel a little bit better with this section because it has established some boundaries. What they're saying is you need to align your work schedule so that you can take care of Fufu. Well, I guess there's two Fufus, so Fufu and Fifi. Take care of the dogs when the owner is gone. So presumably that means you have to be at their house when the dog owner is not around and clean up after yourself, do some light housekeeping, whatever. So this is starting to sound a little bit more like a side gig for someone who primarily works remote or works for themselves, and that can be better than if they were like a live-in caregiver for the dogs and whatnot. I can see where that would be a little bit dodgy unless there was a lot of trust.
And so for me, a couple of things that stood out. I know that there's some family offices where they have like a full Downton Abbey style staff. This to me makes me think that they might not have that because they're asking the person to do like light household duties, and I don't know that they would be, like you mentioned, cleaning up after themselves, and that makes sense. As we get into the role, it does go deeper into what those duties might look like, and it makes me think that maybe they don't have like a big staff there. So this is kind of like a hybrid role of, again, the title says household coordinator. So I would imagine maybe that they would already have that. So I don't think that they do. I think this is like a smaller family office. It might be their first like foray into having a role like this. I don't know. This is just kind of the vibe I'm getting from it. I'm also curious about like you said, great idea. Somebody who works remotely and just kind of do that from this location. But it makes me wonder, are they, it says it's not fixed hours, but how much of the day are they expected to be there? Are they going to be
Hmm.
there only when the owner is away? Are they going to be there when maybe the owner is at work? What's that kind of pay like? Is there flat expected hours of the day? It says it's flexible. I'm just really curious about what that looks like for someone, income wise, earnings, how they work that out. Because like you said, oh yeah, you could just basically like work from there if you wanted to, if you're working remotely, but then maybe they don't want you there all day long. Maybe they want you to like come in the morning, come in the evening.
Hmm.
It's just so interesting to me.
Yeah, is it, and you think about the bigger picture too. So is this job intended, like the family office owner, what they want?
Yeah.
Is it based on, like, are the outcomes based on, or the responsibilities based on duties, or are they based on outcomes?
Yeah.
If it's based on outcomes, then it's like, I come home, the house is not destroyed, and Fifi and Fufu are alive and happy. That's an outcome, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's duties based, it's like, yeah, be there to feed them at 9, noon, and 4, walk them at 10 and 6, and make sure the house is locked up at 7:42 before the security company comes around, right? Like
Yeah.
those are very different things from a job
This
design standpoint.
this is it, right? One allows for more flexibility and freedom than the other. But interesting. Locations. Primary residence, approximately 15 minutes to Collingwood. I don't know where Collingwood is. I don't know Ontario at all. Occasional dog pickups, drop-offs in Barrie and Collingwood. And then it
Hmm.
says vet and grooming appointments. Valid driver's license required with access to a vehicle.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah. Schedule and expectations. So this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, unless there's anything you want to say about locations.
Yeah, no, just for context for folks who aren't familiar with Ontario. So Collingwood is kind of the heart of, call it like ski and tourism country in Ontario. Like Blue Mountain's kind of around there. It's really, really popular destination in the summer and winter. There's tons of resorts there. There are there's some very expensive houses there, and it's kind of a small place. So the car thing absolutely makes sense. There is no public transit to speak of that kind of operates in Collingwood like anything that larger cities would kind of consider mass transit. Barrie is probably an hour from there, hour's drive or something like that. So that again makes the car thing make a lot of sense. If you've got to take the dogs to the vet once in a while, and the vet's in Barrie, sure, yeah, yeah. Just for context for folks, but other than that, no comments. Carry on.
Helpful. Thank you. Schedule and expectations. This position operates on a schedule-driven basis determined by the owner's work and travel commitments. While the role typically averages 5 working days per week, exact hours, days, overnights, and occasional weekends will vary month to month.
Hmm.
On-site accommodations are provided during overnight care periods in a guest bedroom. However, this is not a live-in position. Flexibility, clear communication, and reliability are essential, as the dog's care and household needs must adjust seamlessly to the owner's changing schedule. The primary focus of this role is the dogs and their daily care, well-being, and routine. Household coordination and light duties support this core responsibility by maintaining a clean, calm, and dog-safe home environment. This role is ideal for someone with an adaptable lifestyle who prefers trust-based scheduling over rigid hours. Thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I was just taking notes here, and I recall you saying that you went to med school and you can't read your notes. I can kind of read my notes, so I'm a
Oh,
little bit
yeah.
better off.
Good.
So beige flag kind of comes to mind for me. They say on average this is going to be 5 days, but they don't know what 5 days. That's going to make it a bit of a challenge for someone to kind of plan their life, especially if, because the picture that's being painted in my mind, of the family office owner is that they're an investor, or they're a CEO, or they're someone who has like quite a bit of money, and they have quite a bit of responsibility, and they do a lot of traveling, and not necessarily like well planned in advance traveling. Like if you think,
Yeah.
hey, CEO of a company that's kind of scaling past 500,000 up to 1 billion, or is north of 1 billion, they could be on a plane the drop of a hat if there's a fire crisis or something that just has to be dealt with. So this person's going to kind of need to be on call, it sounds like to me, which means sacrificing elements of their personal life to make
Yeah.
this work. So that's a beige flag. Like, you got to think through that. Now, one thing I did like in what they said there was that they're looking for someone who prefers kind of a trust-based relationship versus, they didn't say a top-down control-oriented relationship, but if you're looking for a trust-based relationship, presumably you're not looking for a top-down control-oriented relationship. And kind of flowing from that, they're looking for somebody who's responsible, somebody who basically can be like the head of household while the owner is kind of gonzo, buggered off, make sure that stuff doesn't fall apart and Fifi and Fufu are fed and watered, and their poop is scooped.
You made a good point, like kind of a head of household. This is what makes me think that there isn't anyone else.
It doesn't sound like it, no.
Right? And it also makes me think that the owner is one person, a singular.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a family. I think it's just one person on their own. This person loves Fifi and Fufu. Like, they
100%.
love their dogs, and I love them for loving their dogs. It's beautiful that they're willing to do this. It also, part of me is like, and then why do you have 2 dogs if you have to travel so much? But we contain multitudes. So yeah, I agree. It makes it very challenging for this individual to have any other type of job that is kind of like shift work type job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be really hard. You would have to either have this be your only job, or
Mm-hmm.
have like a remote type career where you aren't set on
Yeah.
hours. I'm
Or
just
be
trying
a
to think,
freelancer or a contractor
or
or something, like kind of
freelancer.
set your own
Yeah.
hours. Yeah.
Maybe you're a woodwind instrument instructor.
Yeah,
Um,
or a yoga teacher, like,
yoga teacher, or a barista. No. So I
actually a barista job would not work with
would
Phil,
not be
because
able to. As soon as I said
baristas
that, thank you
baristas
so much.
operate on that schedule, right? Like we went into a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, the barista would be the worst job to try
Yeah,
and
it
pair.
actually would be the worst. I was just thinking back to all the jobs that we've talked about, but yeah, so it makes it really hard. Like, this sounds amazing, but it's actually, it wouldn't surprise me if this would be a very challenging position to fill. So not only do you
Mhm.
have to find someone who you trust with Fifi and Fufu, you have to find someone who has this flexibility. Those are two, like, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard for them to fill this position.
So
So
another thing that's going to make this hard
yeah,
is that they're going to need someone local, right?
yeah,
Uh, Population of Collingwood, Ontario is just under 30,000 people.
yeah.
That's going to be a challenge.
So interestingly, that's a really good point, because then I'm thinking, well, why don't they have someone? There are all sorts of services where someone can come in and like take your dogs for an adventure walk, or if you're away, you can kennel them. There's fun places. We've taken our big guy to like these outdoor adventure places when we're away, and he just loves it. They're opting not to have that. And like, I
I,
imagine, like
I
you said, if
think I think the answer is because this person really loves Fifi and Fufu, and they have the money to hire a caregiver for Fifi and Fufu.
yes,
Because, like, let's face it, how much do you really like taking your dog to the kennel, right? Like,
yeah,
it's, and anytime I've taken an animal to the kennel, it's been like, oh my god, my heart's breaking a little bit. Like, I don't want to
yes.
leave you here. You're gonna hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you want them to have the comfort. I mean, we're talking about this right now, going away for spring break, my family, and we're having people through like Trusted House Sitter, the website. They're coming to stay at home to take care of our 2 dogs and fish and plants and everything. But it's exactly that, because I know my dogs are more comfortable in their home, especially with a senior, very senior dog.
Mhm.
She needs to be home. It's not fair to put her in some unknown place. So I get it. And it makes me wonder too, if this person loves their dogs as much as we think that they do, and as much as this job posting is reading as though they do, then maybe this job pays like sick money. Like maybe this could be enough for someone to live off of. Who knows? Interesting. Let's apply. Anyway, okay. Key responsibilities: daily dog care, enrichment, companionship, and routine management, daily long walks, trail hikes, and outdoor activities in all seasons, feeding routines and basic grooming, so brushing, paw cleaning, etc., monitoring and providing consistent updates on the dog's health, behavior, mood, activities, and overall well-being, coordinating and scheduling veterinary and grooming appointments, overnight care during periods of travel and holidays, maintaining tidy, organized, and dog-safe living spaces, weekly household laundry, including dog bedding, household bedding, and sofa blankets,
Hmm.
keeping household essential supplies stocked, including seasonal items, assist with household organization during seasonal transitions, support with occasional day-to-day tasks and errands as needed, regular vacuuming and light floor care, dusting and general surface cleaning, maintaining overall household cleanliness, working with the owner's personal assistant to provide access and oversight for contractors and maintenance personnel. I'm going to stop there. That's a lot of bullet points, and there are some that are very confusing to me. But first, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it really paints a picture of like you are going to be the head of household while this person is away, and they're going to be away a lot.
Yeah.
They're bundling together, and I mean they said this in the job description. They're bundling together the taking care of the dogs and taking care of the house thing. So like that's really the expectation. I thought that it was pretty like through that lens, it was pretty well described, those responsibilities. Like it's different from an office job. There's going to be a whole lot of agency that goes along with this just by the nature of what it is. And at the end of the day, like it's really keep the dogs happy and alive, keep the house from burning down. And you couldn't possibly list out the 2,000 bullet points that would go into that without scaring people off, right? But finding the right person and finding someone that you trust to do all of that
Yeah.
through like a job search recruitment type process is, I don't know, that could be interesting, because how do you build trust, like that level of trust, through a couple of interviews? How does that work?
Yeah. And interestingly, I found this job posting on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is like a
It was going to be a
professional
question. Yeah.
site. So I don't know if that would be the best way to find someone. Like I would think for a role like this, it would be through networks,
Or an
uh,
agency of some sort.
or an
Like
agency.
presumably there'd be an agency of some sort that that does this type of stuff. Like this
Yeah.
person, like it's clear that they've got money. There are agencies that cater to the uber wealthy and just don't advertise on LinkedIn, 'cause they don't friggin' need to.
Exactly. Yeah, it was odd to me that this was a LinkedIn job posting, but
Mm.
um some of the things that were interesting to me, well, I like that they want consistent updates on the dog's health, behavior, mood, activities, and overall well-being.
That could be a green flag or a red flag. Like,
I mean, it's
if
both. It's both.
yeah, if you're expected to send updates on the dogs like every 22 minutes, and if you use the wrong phrasing and send the owner into like a panic and whatever, and then they start calling and they start yelling at you and whatnot, like that might not be a good scene.
Well, you just brought something up that's really important too. What a responsibility. Like, yes, we talk about trust, but like anything could happen. We had our friend's dog we were taking care of, and this motherfucker escaped twice. And we have two dogs, and they've never escaped. He was running up and down the street. We were screaming for him. Neighbors were trying to help catch him. And like, I don't know what happened. It was a split second. So, again, our dogs have never done that. Dogs behave differently, but like imagine a person who loves their dogs as much as this person obviously does, and then something happens. You would want
Hmm.
to make sure whoever gets this job, please make sure that there's some paperwork that really like outlines that kind of like accountability and not being
Limitation of liability.
There you go.
Maybe get yourself some good liability insurance
Get some
as like a
insurance.
contractor.
Absolutely, highly recommend that. Another
Mm.
thing that was odd to me was, okay, and again, like, okay, you're doing some laundry, it sounds to me like this is primarily to get rid of dog hair.
Mhm.
Because it's nothing wild, but things like surface cleaning and vacuuming, the household bedding, the dog bedding, sofa blankets. It sounds like the dogs can kind of go on the bed and go on the couches. And so it's just making sure that that doesn't build up. Totally fine, reasonable. But what does it mean keeping household essential supplies stocked, including seasonal items? What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that like salt for snow? Because I'm on the
In
west
in
coast, it doesn't
Collingwood,
snow
I'd
here.
imagine, yeah, like road salt for the driveway and whatnot. Because Collingwood gets a ton of snow. They get a ton of snow. The weather is not pleasant there. I mean, for Ontario, like weather's worse on the prairies, but for Ontario, it's not great weather in the winter.
So maybe it's that, because then it also says assist with household organization during seasonal transitions. Again, West Coast, Best Coast, we don't have seasons really. It's rain or it's sunny. Um, like what is a seasonal transition like in that area?
Yeah, could be put up the Christmas tree, stuff like
Yeah,
that. Because
okay.
like some people really do that that seasonal decorating thing. Like I can't be bothered. Well, other than Christmas, my wife loves Christmas, so like our flat, it's Christmased out like probably the 3rd or 4th of November every year. But some people put up like harvest decorations, Thanksgiving decorations,
Oh,
Halloween decorations, Easter decorations. Could be
okay.
one of those. Could
I
be one of
just
those.
really didn't know. Thank you. That's very clarifying. I didn't know what that meant. My brain couldn't go to that. I too like to decorate here and there, especially Halloween. So this then it fortifies the idea that they don't have a big staff. We know they have a personal assistant now,
Yep.
and I wonder if they are trying to take a few things off of the personal assistant's plate and give those duties to this dog nanny person.
Yeah.
That
And this also, it really paints the picture of the person who lives here. And you said, I think you said earlier in the reading off the posting, that this is the primary residence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I was kind of thinking at various points, like maybe this is a vacation home or something that
Oh,
they
right.
that they keep going year round, and like the family doesn't live there; they just come visit once in a while. But if this is the primary residence, this really feels to me like there isn't a biological family around, like a
Yes,
support network around to kind of do that. Like this really seems to me to be like one person and their two dogs kind of at this house, so they need the extra help, and this is kind of what that is. And like they're de facto kind of a proxy orbiting pseudo family, this person. I don't know, it just it feels like that.
it does. Yeah. Um, yeah, I just had to double check primary residence. Yeah. Okay. Ideal candidate. Deep love for dogs and genuine enjoyment of spending the majority of the day with them. Comfortable balancing dog care with light household responsibilities. Active and outdoors oriented, comfortable with hour-long hiking, trail walking, and being outside in all seasons. Confident managing multi-dog dynamics, energy levels, routines, and enrichment. Attentive observer who notices changes in behavior, appetite, mood, and physical condition.
Mm,
Comfortable administering medications or following veterinary instructions if required. Calm, dependable, and highly organized. Naturally tidy and respectful of the owner's home. Excellent communicator who provides regular and accurate updates. Holds a valid driver's license with a reliable vehicle and a clean driving abstract. Flexible availability, including occasional weekends and holidays. Previous dog care and household experience strongly preferred, professional or personal. Preference will be given to candidates who do not currently have pets, as one of the dogs is very
mm.
sensitive to unfamiliar dogs in her home environment. So let's stop there.
It's going to make it more challenging to find someone, because Collingwood is a big dog area. You don't get very far when you're out and about, whether it's in town or in kind of the resort areas, like the town where all the Airbnbs and whatever are. You don't get very far without seeing a whole whack load of people walking dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
that's going to make it even more challenging to find someone.
Students, maybe, but no, because then you go to school.
Yeah, and it feels to me like one of the objectives of this is to find back to your point about like why not just take them to the kennel or have like a dog walker come by or whatnot. It feels to me like one of the objectives this person has, and I love it. I actually think this is kind of a green flag, even though it's not written out.
Yeah.
One of their objectives is to find someone that the dogs like and can
Mhm.
bond with while the owner's away, so that they're happier, like they've got a person around. It feels a bit like that because you're right. Like, why else go to all this trouble when there are market solutions that are already around, right? Other than the kennel thing, like people don't like putting their dogs in kennels. I get that, but dog walking, not tough to find a dog walker.
Right? Absolutely. Yep. Anything else for those ideal candidates?
It, it
Candidate?
all it all makes a lot of sense, but from a
Yeah.
structural standpoint, it is going to be challenging to find. Like the what this person wants, they're applying filtering, I think, quite effectively. I think they know what they want. But the filtering might be a little bit too aggressive for Collingwood.
I wonder what could make this a little bit easier for them. Like what would have to change? Well, let's finish it and maybe we'll talk a little bit
Yeah.
about, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's talk about, and this is going to answer a question that I posed earlier, is like, what's the pay structure like? Um,
Hmm.
so what we offer, competitive monthly salary, commensurate with experience, stable long-term employment with 2 wonderful dogs, beautiful outdoor environment and nature-focused lifestyle, pardon me, respectful, transparent, and professional working relationship. I'm just going to go into how to apply because it's almost done. If you are an adaptable, compassionate dog lover who values consistency, nature, and responsible caregiving, we would love to hear from you. Please submit your resume and a brief note describing your dog experience and why this role feels like the right fit in one document. Selected candidates will be contacted directly for next steps. Please note references, a background check, and a driver's abstract will be requested prior to finalizing employment. And that's the end. So a salary is not listed here. And one thing to know, I mean, we do talk a lot about the requirements, and in Ontario it is a requirement, but it's also a requirement based on employee count.
Yeah,
And
they'd be exempt for sure.
yeah, so I want to see a salary. I want to know how much it is,
Yep.
but it's not listed. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
what are your
And
thoughts?
particularly with this one, you would want to see a salary listed because you are going to have to make some decisions about your lifestyle, how you organize yourself, your daily activities, and whether or not you can have other employment, right? Because this
Yeah.
is this whole variable schedule, but still 5 days a week thing. Um, unless there is sufficient salary there to fund someone's life, like, displace the money that they would be making from another job, this probably isn't going to work. Like, yeah, the
Yeah.
remote thing, like if you have a job and you work remote, like you're a kind of professional and you're doing this and you kind of work from the house, yeah, yeah, but it's going to be tough. Like, I would want to see a salary, and even then it's like, okay, how much money is on the table for me to completely turn my personal life upside down? Because if I'm working remote and I'm making okay enough money to pay my rent and bills and whatnot, and this is just kind of something extra, it's still going to cut into my free time, and it's going to make it very, very difficult for me to plan vacations. What if I want to go away and go camping? Right? Or like hiking or whatever, or if I want to go to a resort or I want to travel for a little bit and take a proper vacation, even if I just want to, like, bugger off and go to another city that's a couple hours away to visit friends. Are you going to have to sacrifice all of that for this? Yeah, absolutely you are.
Absolutely. I
But
completely agree.
you're not telling us how you're going to compensate us for that pretty big ask. Like, that's a red flag for me. I don't dig that.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I also wonder, is this like, why now? Is this a new position? It sure
Mm,
sounds like it to me. What were they doing before? Did the owner's job change and they're required to suddenly travel a lot?
yeah.
that's interesting as well. But no, you're right. Like if somebody is going to be there for this person's holidays and vacations and all of that stuff, weekends, things like that, it really limits what the other person is able, oh my God, sorry, to do. And I'm allergic to dogs.
You're allergic to talking about other people's dogs because you
Yes,
have your own.
yes. To Fifi and Fufu. And yeah, it's very limiting of what this person can do. And maybe the salary is really good. Like maybe it's enough of a salary that this is your salary. But even then, it doesn't mention benefits, it doesn't mention vacation time. So it's not really
Yep.
a job that takes care of those types of things for you either. So I find that really interesting. Driver's abstract, I don't know,
Mm.
maybe I'm ignorant. I didn't know what that was, so I had to look it up. But
Yeah,
it's your driving
it makes
record.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Like if you, especially in this backdrop of like you really care about the dogs, you're not going to hire somebody who's a terrible driver, does lots of texting, doesn't have any hangups about
Yeah,
having a wobbly pop and getting behind the wheel, which it happens a lot less than it did 30 or 40 years ago, but it happens.
yeah.
You want to screen out those folks for sure. Like I get that. It is quite the step, but I get it.
I get it too. I just, for me, it was a new term. I'd never heard of it before. One of the
Hmm.
things that was in the ideal candidate thing section that we didn't talk about was preference will be given to candidates who do not currently have pets. As one of the dogs, I'm going to guess it's Fifi, is very sensitive to unfamiliar dogs in her home
Absolutely, it's
environment.
Fifi.
It's totally it's such a Fifi thing. So this is interesting too, which is almost good. I just wanted to touch on it because, if somebody loves dogs, but maybe they live in an apartment where they're not allowed to have dogs or whatever reason, then they still get to like fill their bucket of spending time with dogs and not
Hmm.
having any of their own. But it's also kind of limiting as well. Say you decide you want to get a dog, your arrangement changes and it's time for you to get a dog now, and like you can't. That's wild. Like an
Yeah.
employer to dictate whether or not you can have a dog. I mean, they do say
Yep.
preference will be given, so I'm like maybe they're a bit flexible with that.
Yep.
But interesting, we can it already like that's a red flag just for Fifi, that Fifi is going to be high maintenance, so not necessarily very easygoing. I would love to know how that comes out. Like sensitive to unfamiliar dogs. I guess they're saying don't bring the dog into her environment, but are they saying you can't have a dog? Because they are kind of saying preference will be given to
It,
candidates who don't currently have
yeah.
pets. Not even
It,
dogs, sorry, pets. What about like we're gonna get our son a hamster? I know I'm gonna regret it. But like what about other pets? What about if you have a
It, it
cat?
sounds it sounds like Fifi is very sensitive to the smell of other four-legged life forms, and just
Yeah.
doesn't dig that.
Yeah.
And it's actually it's very good that they said preference and not requirement, because if they had said requirement, I think that would be pretty solid grounds for a discrimination suit
Mm,
from someone, whether or not you wanted to fuck about and pursue something like that.
yeah.
Maybe not, but that type of exclusionary requirement, the courts don't really dig. They tend to frown on that.
Yeah. So no salary. Do we want to I couldn't even guess what a salary like this would be because there's so many unknowns. Because if they're saying it's a monthly salary, but then some hours you might or some weeks you might work more than others, like it's really hard to put a number on
Yeah.
that.
It's
Sometimes
I almost think of it
seems
like a retainer. I almost think of it
yeah,
like a monthly retainer rather than a monthly salary. It's like, I'm buying your time to do all the stuff that needs to be done every month, and if you can do it in 5 hours, cool. Based on my schedule, great. If you need 30 or 40 a week to do it, well, okay, that's why you've got the monthly retainer. But yeah, you're right. It's tough to put a price tag on it. Personally, if the way that I kind of look at this is like, this is going to severely limit my employment, opportunities for having another job. So that means that this kind of needs to, this is the way I'd think about it. This needs to be kind of my primary source of income. So you think about like the cost of living in Ontario and Collingwood. Collingwood's a small place, but the cost of living there is a little bit nutty because it's a tourist area and there's lots of demand and there's been lots of displacement of housing
Mm.
for short-term rentals. So living in Collingwood's not cheap. Um, I would probably guess that you would need for something like this between 60 and 75 to make it work if it's your only source of income. Unless, of course, there's, stuff that is provided um, by the employer that's just not listed. Like they talked about, it's not a live-in position, but there's overnight stays. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I agree, like 75K maybe for a job like this. But we have no way of knowing.
Yeah,
And then before we rate it, I do want to take a moment to, like we mentioned earlier, like what would make this better? What would make it easier for the employer to find someone? Because it's just going to be really hard for them. And it's such an important, I don't know, it's just such an important position. You can really read that it means so much to them. They're willing
yeah,
to invest the time, the money, the money, not their time, because they're hiring someone to do that part for them.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, what would make this easier for them to find someone? What's missing?
I think that this is I think that this is kind of a bit of a structural problem. There are so many filters in place that are going to screen out people who already live in this area that's going to be the primary challenge. So if it were me, like let's say this gets posted, I go through a couple of rounds of not finding someone locally, and I'm like, what do I do next? Well, I think what I would be looking to do next is actually kind of expand the scope of this role a little bit and make it a live-in role, because then you could hire somebody from another market and bring them in, or maybe you have like a kind of rotating staff of 3 people. You could hire them from like Toronto or Vancouver or Edmonton or Montreal and be like, hey, come here 4 months of the year. For 4 months, like this is what you do, and then the other person takes over, and then the other person takes over. That something like that would help you expand your candidate pool. But then there are still problems, right? Like you find someone who's willing to be away from their family for 4 months, right? So then you're looking for someone who doesn't have a family. So you're kind of looking young student, or maybe you're looking like older retired. Like you come up with a bunch of different sets of problems that you have to overcome. Um, this is going to be tough. I feel for this person. I feel for
Yeah,
this person. Like part of me is like, well, obviously got tons of money, so I can't feel too bad for you. But obviously they love their dogs,
yeah.
and they want their dogs to have a human while they're not around. That's going to be kind of a challenge. Um,
Yeah, I think, sorry, I think what I would do for me, what I would recommend is to beef up the role and make it a um household manager role. So
mm,
like it says household coordinator, but be like the family office household manager. So this personal assistant maybe reports into them. They're already doing some of those duties, but I think just like make it a bit meatier, a bit of a more robust role. Determine those hours, just get a little bit more set with it if you can,
mm,
um, and have a really good salary so that this is someone's full-time job. The live-in
mhm.
part is interesting because it doesn't sound like they have a guest house or anything. So basically you're saying that that person would like live in your house in a spare room, which a lot of au pairs and things like that do. It just changes the dynamic. When you're doing that and there are children around, children are taking up a lot of space. There's a lot of buffer because they're also talking and they're running around. But when it's dogs, you're just kind of like sitting there, like, so we're roomies, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I
It's
mean, lot predicated on this that we don't really know, right? Like, the
right.
question comes up with this part of the discussion, like, what's the size of the house? Because
Yeah.
in my mind, and I'm sure in your mind, we're thinking like kind of standard issue family suburban homes,
Yeah.
few bedrooms, like third of an acre, half an acre sort of thing. But if this person is hiring a dog nanny full time, they
Bigger
could
than that.
very well have a heck of a mansion. And it could be like one of these 10 or 15 bedroom places, which do exist in Collingwood. A lot of them are put up on Airbnb as short term rentals.
Yeah,
And you go there for $5,000 for like a weekend sort of thing on a ski trip. Tons of those houses. Maybe this person owns one of those outright,
yeah.
and they don't Airbnb it. So like the live-in thing, maybe it's not an issue if that's what
Maybe
they
it's
got
an
going
issue.
on with their living arrangements.
And maybe they, if they have as much money as we think they do, then maybe they invest and do a little like suite, and then that way that person can live. And I do think the living in thing would solve a lot of problems for
Yeah.
them.
But brings
Um,
up more challenges like we've
it
talked
brings
about.
absolutely. So overall, then, how would you rate this job posting?
So I'm gonna split this into two scores, because
Okay.
I think especially with a with something like this, it's good to look at it from two different angles. From the perspective of like scoring the job ad itself, what did it tell us? You know, what's that out of 10? I would probably rate the job ad itself about a 5 out of 10. There was some good stuff in the job ad that I liked. You know, there was talk of trust based relationships. You really got a sense of why they're trying to hire this person. Like I think the duties were pretty clear,
Yeah.
even though there were some nuances that we talked about. That was like, oh yeah, what does that actually mean? There was some of that, but overall, I kind of got the role from your read of it. So like 5 out of 10 could have been better. Could have been more descriptive. Yeah, 5 out of 10. Job design though, the role design, that I would I would probably score the role design a 4 out of 10. I get what they're trying to do, but structurally, there's a lot stacked up against this from a role design perspective. You know, full-time hours, not set schedule, won't know what those are.
Yeah.
Responsibilities, like it sounds kind of like this is an outcome-based gig. Make sure the house doesn't burn down. Make sure Fifi and Fufu are, alive and happy when the owner gets back. Those parts are very clear. But what leads into those things structurally, there's a lot stacked against them finding the right person that they want. And if this person does love their dogs as much as it sounds like they do, they're going to be real picky about the person
Yeah.
that they hire. And a part of me thinks that that is going to be a strike against some people, because if the owner doesn't like them, they won't hire them, even if the person is qualified and capable and willing to do the job. Like this is a bit too dependent on vibes. It feels like to me to be like a fairly designed role. Like there's going to be a lot of messiness in this, and it's not something that the person who ultimately gets hired is is going to be able to do a heck of a lot about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I would say the posting itself to me was more like 7 out of 10. It didn't mention salary. It didn't have like an AI disclosure, which I really doubt they're using AI to screen or select candidates here. Like you said, it's going to be more of a vibes based hire, as it should be for the dogs, especially. Like imagine the interview process for this job too, right? Uh, yeah, I think it was good. I think it maybe should have mentioned things like what kind of house so the person can understand. What are they just going to be like in a broom closet, or do they actually have like some space when they're sleeping over, that kind of thing. So a little bit more information was needed there. For the job design, same. I'm about a 4. I'm not sure how this is going to work out for them, but I wish everyone the best. I think that there are some improvements that can be made. They really need to think it through, and it will come down at the end of the day. This is going to come down to like the right person finding this at the right time in their lives. I can't see it being a long-term thing. It mentions long-term in the job posting. I can't see that it will be for
Fifi and Fufu got a shelf life no matter what you do and how well you care for them. Sorry to be
right.
like,
Well,
blatantly honest.
That, and like you said, you're giving up your weekends, holidays, like all of the stuff. You got to live your life too. So eventually it's just probably not gonna, it's just not gonna feel sustainable. The final question that I have for you before we wrap this up, before we consider this post roasted, in your head, when you close your eyes and you're thinking about the two dogs that are mentioned throughout this job posting,
What kind of dogs are they?
what kind of dogs are they?
Yeah, maybe I biased myself by kind of like naming them Fifi and Fufu, but I picture poodles.
Me too. One black and one white standard poodle.
Oh, I had both. I had both white poodles, like very,
Really?
very well coiffed. Like I got a perm today, white poodles.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what's in
like
my
little
brain.
little ribbons. I think black and white for me because I have poodle salt and pepper shakers and they're so cute and they're very like well-to-do poodles. Like they're high class chic poodles. And so that's what I picture here. That is so funny. But maybe it is, maybe the names, as soon as you throw the names, our brains automatically went to poodles. So I'm curious what listeners and
Yeah,
watchers thought the whole time as well. Maybe we need a disclosure at the top saying, before you listen, we're going to ask you to send in what kind of dogs you were thinking about this whole time.
yeah. If y'all got thoughts, like comment on the episode page and tell us what kind of dogs you think we're talking about here.
Yeah, we both went full poodle.
Full poodle.
Full poodle. That's it. That's all I got.
Then this post is roasted. Ba-da-ba. Thanks for riding shotgun with us on Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If this episode helped you make sense of a messy job posting or just confirmed your instincts, go find that subscribe button and tap it. We're on YouTube and all the usual podcast apps, so follow us wherever you like to listen. And if you've seen a posting that made you raise an eyebrow, laugh, or seriously question the sanity of the hiring process, send it our way. Listener submissions are some of our favorites. Follow the link in the show notes for more. We'll be back next week with another post to roast.